Burgundy Ballers, welcome back to an episode of the Ballin and Burgundy podcast. It's been a while, guys. It's been a while, but we got to come back at you guys. It's been our little off season the past 2 weeks since the draft, but we are back. It's your boys Jon and Justin. What's up? What's going on, Justin?
What's up, John? Like
Yeah,
always, we're getting this rolling.
yeah,
Commanders
I'm
got
back.
new hope.
We got hope, and we got a big time guest, guys. He was on with me during spring break to talk about this upcoming draft. He's back again post draft. It's our guy Adam from the Burgundy and Gold Report over on YouTube and Instagram. What's going on?
Hey, how's it going, man? Yeah, it was a fun draft. It was a lot
Yeah.
of picks for needs, and I was skeptical to be in, like we were talking about Quan Martin, but man, after I watched the film on these guys, I think it's a solid draft that they had. Solid draft.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Justin and I went over the draft about 2 days right after it happened, so we were getting all the hot access. Like, I can't believe this Forbes, and then the more you take a step back and you realize like, all right, Forbes was a good pick. Like we were talking about before stream, Quan was a great pick. You pick up 2 linemen, you pick up the edge, linebacker edge, pick up a running back. You got pieces all around for depth, for starters, for the future, for now. You got good pieces all around.
Yeah, especially
Yeah, 100.
Stromberg is a sneaky pick that I thought he'd go late second. So to
Yeah.
get a guy like that, that gave him the freedom to cut Rouillet, because Gates, that's the guy they're penciling in. But I think that's going to be probably one of the most intense battles in camp is for the starting center.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100% agree with you there for that.
I say I am all here for it. Before we get into this conversation, this great episode, guys, I'm ready to like and subscribe over on Ballin and Burgundy and over at the Burgundy and Gold Report. Go follow them on Instagram and YouTube. They're doing him and what's the other fella's name with you? Is it over
Who's
at
that?
who are you doing the draft reports with? I forget what his name is. It's
Oh, Doug McCrae. Yeah,
Doug
we
McCray.
we,
Thank
we
you.
we were doing a weekly draft show. Yeah, you can find him on Twitter, Doug McCrae, and Big Douglas Show on YouTube. Yeah, well, we're going to be continuing that, switching a little more to fantasy. My other guy, George Carmy, he'll be on with us. He's from Full Press Coverage and Sports Illustrated, so he'll be on the show too. And we'll just be talking fantasy, Commanders, just everything that we think fans want to hear.
There we go. That's what I'd like to hear. So, guys, if you want to stay tuned for that, get a lot of that, go over to the Burgundy and Gold Report. Go subscribe and follow over there. Let's get started. Draft season is now over. We are now at the end of May. It's given us a good full 2 weeks since the draft. Lots of teams made good moves. Lots of teams made interesting moves. And we are at BLB. We love a good mock draft. For all those who tuned in, even Adam, we sent you a giant mock draft. Beforehand it was like 4 or 5 trades. You're like, I don't know how to grade this. It was massive. But we do love our lists here. So I was thinking, I talked to you guys before the recording, and I think our fans might enjoy this, is we're gonna do a tier list of we're gonna give a grade for every NFL team's draft, whether it's an A, an S, B, C, down to a D. I'm gonna count a D as an F because it just sounds a little bit better. So I'm gonna pull up the tier list. If my computer wants to love me today, that's not what I want to say. Yes, I was on the. No, that's still not it. Where'd it go? Oh, gotta love technology. There we go. Good Lord. Alrighty. So yeah, I do write a tier list. It's the tier list Justin, you and I use at our mid-season mark to kind of grade the teams who would go to the Super Bowl, who wouldn't, and we were off. We chose the Kansas City Chiefs, the Bills, and the Eagles, and actually we were 2 for 3, so we'll take that. We'll take company right there. But as you can see, we got all of the 32 NFL teams. I got an A++ just because everyone loves a good double plus. It makes us feel better in life. And then A, B, C, and D. So let's get started. What do you guys think? I'm going to go kind of in order of every team, which is a little bit easier to kind of keep track. So I'm going to start with the Arizona Cardinals. I would give them a B for what they did. But you move back in, you pick up a first and third next year, and you got good pieces all around.
I'm gonna have to agree with you there. I do think getting O-line early really sealed their draft, helped them get what they wanted to throughout the process.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely gave them, like, overall in their draft, a solid B. Getting Paris Johnson Jr. is huge. I think they've gone too many years with really trying to get a blue chip tackle, but then for the next 2 picks, getting BJ Arlari, the edge from LSU, and then Garrett Williams, who that's a cornerback from Syracuse that many had in that early second round, but had an injury, so they got a steal with him. And they're really rebuilding some pieces all over the place. So they had a good start to building their roster. The back end of their draft, that's what really dropped a little bit for me. I would have given them a B plus, but I think they started. They got some value picks with Kentrell Clark in the 6th round, quarterback DB out of Louisville, and Owen Papio, which is a decent linebacker out of Auburn. But there was definitely other value that I found on the board. I figured that they still, even though they have some receivers there, I figured, that they would look at somebody, but they didn't make a move for anybody in a pretty deep class. So, I would have given them a way better grade if they attacked that. But yeah, solid all around, solid B for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of looking at it because I got the NFL.com kind of gives us the list of each teams. I mean, they got O tackle, they got corner, they got the one receiver out of Stanford, they want guard, linebacker, you pointed out the corner. I mean, they got a piece for almost every position in this draft. They kind of resupply their team because with Kyler injured, D-Hop coming off, I believe a suspension last year, and then he just didn't produce as well as we thought. He might get traded. Who knows what he's going to do? Running backs and all that great with James Conner, and then who else? I think overall they did a pretty good draft. Like I said, I started with the B. You guys kind of all agreed. Atlanta Falcons. This is where the big shock took place. They took Bijan in the first, Ferguson, the tackle at the second. They went edge, corner, safety, and then a guard again. I'd give them a B. You get running back and tackle to solidify your offense, and you help out your edge, your secondary, and you grab depth guard at your 7th pick in the 8th pick of the 7th round. I go a B again, kind of a B.
Yeah, I definitely go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'll let you go first.
Okay. Yeah, no, I give them a B plus. I really liked what they did, especially with the Robinson pick, a little earlier than, I would have taken him. But, that's, you're trying to, get your quarterback comfortable, if it's Desmond Ridder, if it's whoever, we see Taylor Heineke's over there now. So I don't think he'll play unless injury. Yeah. But, I think if you're trying to help your quarterback, having a good run game is the best way to go. And, Bergeron from Syracuse, that was a legit pick in the 2nd round. But a guy I actually wrote about, OSU's Zach Harrison, he went actually a little higher than a lot of people have, including me. One of the best high school defensive ends in the nation when he came out to Ohio State. But getting Clark Phillips from Utah in the 4th, that was the biggest shocker for me because I had that guy as an early 3rd. So you look what they did, how they made the trade for Okudah, Clark Phillips, and the guys they already have. They have a decent defensive backfield. And, I think I thought that they would add more O-line picks. I would have given an A if they jumped around instead of Harrison, maybe took one of the interior guys, which I thought they were going to do. I would have given an A, but yeah, I give them a B plus because I think, not only do they hit need, they got a lot of value with their picks.
I'm going to go ahead and give him a B. Robinson to me was just a little too early because we all see the trend with running backs taken early, 1st round. But their draft, they did pretty balanced. They hit O-line, they hit secondary, they got an edge rusher with Harrison, like you were saying, who I thought was probably the steal of the draft on their end from their draft.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, you pick up, like you said, Clark Phillips and then the safety DeMarco Helms out of Alabama. You traded for Jesse Bates. You got Jeff Okudah. You got missing one. AJ Terrell. I mean, you got a serious 1-2 punch. You got Okudah, trailing opposite sides, Jesse Bates protecting the skies. You pick up Clark Phillips as a good, good depth piece, and also probably a legitimate starter the next year or two, I'd say, depending on where injuries and contracts lie. I really like it. I go B. I think the big, flashy grab of Robinson at 8 was a little bit high. I thought he'd fall just 10 for Philly, but him and Al-Jahir, being the 1-2 punch in the dirty South, it's a legitimate threat for the NFC for the NFC South now because that's not a good division all around. The Baltimore Ravens. This is where things got interesting. Draft day morning, Lamar gets signed. Later the night, they pick up a receiver. They go linebacker, then edge, corner, tackle, and then they pick up Andrew Voorhees, the USC guard, who if he wasn't injured, 2nd round guy. And to me, would have been a 2nd round pick. He falls all the way to the 7th, coming off an ACL injury at the draft. Still put up, 38, deadlift. This is how you know I don't hit the gym. list at the draft or at the combine. But I think overall, I mean, this is going to be a theme of this, right? I'd go a high B. You could make a case to me to put the Baltimore Ravens draft class at an A.
Yeah, I wasn't as high. I was high on their first two picks. Zay Flowers, the wide receiver from Boston College. I think a lot of people that I know that are Ravens fans were a little sour that Hollywood was moved to Arizona. So I think this is a guy that's comparable, if not has a higher ceiling maybe right now. But then get Trenton Simpson in the third round, linebacker at Clemson. That was a shocker to me. I had him going late first, at the worst second round. But after that, I think they kind of dwindled as far as, filling need positions. But even though they even filled need, there was just some guys on the board that I think could have done a lot. The Andrew Voorhees pick, that's just a lucky pick to me. The fact that he fell to the seventh, even with the injury, I had him falling to the fourth round. So, the Voorhees in the first two picks, that put me in that, solid B range. It would have been probably closer to a B plus if they, looked at some of the other guys on the board. I think, especially on the defensive line, that, I don't think that they're good enough to, pass on those. And they weren't that active in free agency in that department. They made some upgrades. But yeah, overall, I give them a solid B for their class.
See, I had to be the oddball here. I gave him a C. I'm glad they got Zay Flowers for Lamar Jackson, but Trent Simpson, I mean, you have Patrick Queen, unless you're going to get rid of Patrick Queen next year. And other than that, they got a bunch of depth, but their defensive line was a big need this draft, and they failed to get somebody.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. They also just paid Roquan Smith $100 million. So you got Roquan, Patrick Queen, and Trent Simpson. On paper, that's a legitimate linebacker, room right there. But Roquan's coming off of being traded, so we don't know how he's on. Patrick Queen's being trade fodder. Who knows? And Simpson's a rookie.
Yeah.
So we'll see how they play out. I'll go B. I think, there was a case they made. You guys brought me to a B. I like it. The Buffalo Bills, I have a high grade on this draft class. Y'all could call me crazy. That's fine. They have Dalton Kincaid. They jump the Cowboys. They get Dalton Kincaid. They get my guy, Osiris Torrance, out of Florida, the guard. Dorian Williams, linebacker. Another Florida boy, Justin Shorter, the receiver. Nick Broker, the guard out of Mississippi. And then Alex Austin, the corner out of Oregon State. So you pick up two weapons, a solid guard at your O-line, another guard piece, and then you pick up a linebacker and a corner to help this guys. I could go a B plus. I could go an A if I wanted to.
Yeah, I would give him a solid A. The fact that Kincaid fell to the 25th, I thought that was going to happen all along. All the talk about him going top 20, even though he was cleared for his back, that still concerns. You know what I mean? Especially if you're a tight end that takes a lot of shots. So I think they got him right where he should, but still, it's still A plus value at that point. And then Osiris Torrance, that was a guy that was early on the process, late first round, early second. And then, some even pushed him a little later after, I guess, some of the interviews. There was, I guess, some concerns about overall attitude. But, to get those first two guys with their picks, and then a guy I wrote about pre-draft was Dorian Williams, linebacker out of Tulane. The former Hokie that the Buffalo let go, he definitely doesn't replace that size. It's night and day because Dorian Williams, just a shade under 6 foot. But man, this guy is just one of those positional versatile guys that can be in that nickel role. There's a lot of things he can really do, especially, in coverage. So I think Buffalo is really going to look to attack this year. And that guy was solid, after those picks, like I said, solid picks as far as picks for needs, wide receiver, guard, and corner. But yeah, I give their draft an A because, getting Kincaid, Torrance and Williams with those first three picks, they nailed it with those.
Yeah, I give their draft an A. Talking to a lot of Bills fans, they needed weapons, they needed a guard, and they needed a linebacker. They got all that was in the first 3 rounds. Perfect guys. Some of these guys could have been up to round 2 prospects, but they had a pretty solid draft this year.
Yeah. I mean, I was hearing talks, Torres would go late 20s, early 30s. And the fact that he fell to, 58? I do interviews play process, but no sacks going to be your entire Florida career. And Florida's been rocky. I'm a Florida guy, so we've been rocky the past 3 seasons. From Kyle Trask to Emory Jones to Anthony Richardson to give up no sacks. I thought he got a little bit higher, but 58 to Buffalo as a Super Bowl contender. It's a good fit for him. Carolina had a pretty good draft. Bryce Young in the first, Jonathan Mingo, they traded up for him. DJ Johnson, the edge out of Oregon, in their third. Chandler Savalia, the guard at NC State, in the fourth, and Jamie Robinson in the fifth. You pick up your quarterback of the future, a solid rookie receiver to learn under DJ Chark and Thielen, a good edge to learn under Brian Burns. To me, it's starting guard because their O-line's a bit rocky. And then Jamie Robinson, the safety, who they just signed a week ago as their first rookie deal. On paper and with name value alone, I could go A with this class.
Yeah, of course, Bryce Young, I think everybody pretty much had a feeling that they would go there. So, not really much a surprise for me. Although Jonathan Mingo, I see what they're doing. I like what he does. Man, there was some tight ends on the board there that, and I think Carolina has some guys that they really like, just like Washington has some guys in the tight end really like. But there was a lot of value in the second round. And I think with a guy like Bryce Young, the way he likes to play, throwing outside the hashes, I think that's a tight end safety blanket. There was a bunch of them at that point. I think that they really should have gotten him because honestly, I might be in the minority, but I think Mingo would have been available in the third round. So I think they could have waited a little bit. And DJ Johnson out of Oregon, another one of these tweener guys, decent pick, but with Burns and the other talent they have, I think again that third round they should have gone more offense because I think after trading their star receiver, I think you just need to continue to load up. They have some talent with the kid they got out of Minnesota, DJ Chark. So they have some guys, but I think they really should have made some moves. For that, I give them a B- overall.
I don't know. I gave him a B. You got your quarterback for the future. But like you were saying, Mingo, way too early, second round. I wish they traded back and got more weapons and they got more picks. Because Bryce Young, he's a young quarterback.
Yep.
And he needs all the weapons he can get to produce.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, reporters saying Andy Dalton's going to start because Bryce is going to want to sit a bit, which I can see it. But also knowing Carolina, they're going to want to rush to see what Bryce Young looks like. We'll see how everything falls out because I can't speak English today. The Chicago Bears, they had a draft all in their own right. They obviously traded back from 1 to 9. They traded back down again with Philly so they could grab Jalen Carter. They got the Tennessee tackle, Darnell Wright. They got Gervin Dexter Sr., the D tackle out of Florida. Tyreek Stevenson, the corner out of Miami. Zach Pickens out of Carolina, the D tackle. Roshan Johnson, running back out of Texas. Tyler Scott, receiver out of Cincinnati. Noah Sewell, linebacker. Terrell Smith, corner. Travis Bell, D tackle, and Kendall Williamson. I think Wright was a reach at 10 because he had Skoronski there. Johnson fell at 6, so he had still had Skoronski there. You could have gone somewhere else. You could trade it back again if you tried. I'd go B to B-. I think their draft filled needs, filled positions, but I don't know if they did an all-around great draft.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty much with you. Solid B. But I love the Darnell Wright pick. Even though maybe a little early, not by much, just a couple picks.
Yeah.
But the guy that I think he's going to really make a big difference there is Roshan Smith out of Texas. He didn't get all the love, but like that guy is the far superior pass blocker. He can do a lot of things in the run game, and I think that'll really be an upgrade for them. But Tyreek Stevenson out of Miami, solid cornerback. He's going to be a guy that's going to play in the league for 10 years. Not really jump out. He's a guy that I think will give you maybe a good year, 3 interceptions. But like you said, loading up that defense, Penny's, I'm about to say his brother, Noah Sewell. The fact that he was in the 5th round, to me, that was awesome value. I had that guy rated a lot higher. I was actually surprised because, he gets rated as this, kind of sluggish guy. But, you're talking about a guy that's like nearly 6'3". At one playing weight is usually average around 250s, still running in that sub 4.55 range. So, you're talking about a guy that can move. So to get him that late, solid. But I give him a solid B for their draft.
Yeah, I'd agree with you guys at a B, B-. I mean, Darnell Wright, right, to me, best right tackle in the draft. Yeah, a little early, but if you like a guy, you need to take him early rather than waiting or trading back and risking him being taken by somebody else.
Yep.
But their draft mainly got a bunch of young kids who are going to be good depth pieces, but just got to mature up and learn a bit,
Yeah.
But Stevenson to me is probably one of my favorite picks they took this draft along with Swole.
Yeah, I think overall, I think they're building a good room. I think it'll be another 2-ish years to see if they really come out as this big team. You still have Green Bay, who's in the competition. Minnesota will still be in there. I think Chicago just needs to really reinforce the O line. You got Nate Davis, and you got they picked up another tackle like right as soon as free agency hit, but did not get really an O tackle really till late. I mean, you got right at 10, but then who else is really there to help you kind of solidify your youth?
Right.
I think B is the right place. Cincinnati had I call it a good draft. Miles Murphy had 28. DJ Turner the second, the corner out of Michigan at round 2. Jordan Battle round 3. Charlie Jones, the receiver, as if they needed another receiver in Cincinnati at round 4. Chase Brown, the running back at round 5. Andre, I'm gonna botch his name. Eosabius, receiver out of Princeton in the 6th round. Brad Robbins, a punter in the 6th, and DJ Ivy, the DB out of Miami, round 7. Solid B. I think you get pieces for your corners. You get another good safety since you lost Jesse Bates. Good running back, because who knows what Joe Mixon's if he's even gonna be there at the start of next season. And then 2 receivers who's probably gonna be special teams at best, because Higgins, Chase, and Tyler Boyd is a deadly trio. I think you just add good pieces around. I give it a B to B plus.
Yeah, no, I was really not enamored with their draft. Miles Murphy was a legit pick. Turner, he fits a need. His speed, I think, is what blew a lot of people away. But as far as if you really pop on the tape from him, he got beat a lot. He had some issues in coverage. But one guy that's interested me, I was talking to a couple Ivy League guys, is this kid out of Princeton. They're going to probably look to move him to tight end, is from what I heard. If it's the right guy I'm thinking of. There's like 2 Princeton receivers, but I did hear that about him. So even though that they did pick 2 receivers, he's probably going to be moved to tight end. But I just think, like you mentioned, with their receiver depth already, I think Charlie Jones, not really ranking wise, but was a reach for them in general. In that 4th round, there was a lot of guys available. I think that they still they need to continue to add to that offensive line every draft until they get it right, because their O-line is decent right now. But not, if you have a franchise guy like Burrow, you should be drafting guys in those top 3 to 4 picks every year at the interior and even outside. So, I'll give them a C plus overall, just because those beginning picks were, Murphy was good value. But yeah, I just wasn't really enamored.
Justin, you still there?
Yeah, there. I just had an internet issue, but I gave him a C plus. Miles Murphy, like you were saying, legit defensive end. DJ Turner, I didn't have him until 3rd round, 4th round. I hated him. His coverage grade for me didn't get a good grade because his coverage wasn't that good. But like you were saying, the O-line, I was kind of upset they didn't pick a guard or tackle or somebody, because their O-line could just never stay healthy at all.
Yeah.
With getting to get Orlando Brown this year really helped them out, but one guy is 5 other guys.
Yeah, I agree. I would agree. C plus it is. Y'all convinced me. I like it. The Cleveland Browns, they didn't have a pick till round 3 since the big Deshaun Watson trade. They didn't have a pick till the 3rd round, but I kind of like some of these picks. In round 3, you picked up Cedric Tillman, the receiver out of Tennessee. Saika Ika, the D tackle out of Baylor. You got DeJuan Jones, the tackle out of the Ohio State in the round 4. Isaiah McGuire, DN out of Missouri. You got a Dorian Thompson Robinson, QB out of UCLA in round 5. Cameron Mitchell, corner out of Northwestern at round 5. And Luke Whippler, the center out of Ohio State in round 6. I could give this a B. I think you get good depth at tackle and center. You get a legitimate guy, receiver 2, receiver 3 in Tillman, and then a good just backup piece in DTR to kind of ride what Deshaun will or won't do for the next 2 years.
Yeah, I think really, I gave him a B plus, because really when they started heating up was when they got to the fourth round. DeJuan Jones, everybody was wondering on draft day, what's up with the fall? It started with people talking about he interviewed bad. There was really questions like his dedication to football. He always talking about his dream was to play in the NBA because he was actually, you know, for a guy his size, they called him, you know, Thanos. He was a legit, you know, power forward center. So I think that concerned teams. But in the end, from what I heard, like on draft night when this was going on the fall, that he did break a bone. I think in his foot is what I heard, something like that. So that caused him to slip. But, you know, he's a guy I wrote about as, you know, an early second rounder that I thought would even jump up in the first round. And then, like we mentioned, the other fourth, Isaiah McGuire, another edge that, you know, is a position of need. But this is a guy who just didn't get a ton of attention. He doesn't have a ton of pass rush moves, but he's one of those guys that's going to get home. Really give outside guys, you know, headaches, and they're going to have to account for him. But another guy I wrote about, I was really hoping Washington, you know, if he fell to the fifth or sixth, it was going to look at him as Dorian Thompson-Robinson out of UCLA. I went on with Doc Walker. We talked about, because I always reach out to him, especially when we, you know, get into the UCLA guys. He's really heavily involved. As much as we see with the Commanders, he's just as involved with the Bruins. So, you know, I really picked his brain about Robinson and what he thought he would be, because a lot of people just thought, you know, this is a guy maybe future running back. He's not going to be a true, you know, receiver, more of a gadget guy. He couldn't disagree more. So after watching all this film, I really thought, you know, the fifth round, still great value, because I think this is a guy in a pinch. You're talking about Deshaun Watson. I'm just not sold that he's going to be the guy. You know, I think that somebody that, you know, is going through all the drama, he's still going through it. He still has lawsuits, and, you know, not saying he's going to get suspended, but you just never know in this day and age if more video will come out, another suspension on the horizon. So, you know, we got Brissett. So I think Dorian Thompson-Williams, you know, he could see the field at some point this year. I think that having Luke Weipler fall to the sixth round, you know, that's a guy I had going, you know, late third, fourth round. Think he's a really good center, really good fundamentals. So, you know, with those picks, you know, you talk about they didn't have any picks in the third round. They really made their money on those fourth, fifth, sixth round picks. So yeah, I give them a B plus. I really like what they did.
I give him a B. I mean, not many of those guys are going to start this year. I mean, Robinson, yeah, good chance with him. Like you were saying, starting with Watson's up, down, left, and right, social status, the lawsuits and everything.
Yeah.
But, you know, Jones to me was my favorite pick by them too. So we'll see if he gets to start this year or not.
Yeah. I mean, if he starts, he's not going to a bad squad. Let's be real. I mean, you've got a good receiver in Amari Cooper. You've got top 7, you know, running back in Nick Chubb. You've got a good defense with Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, and the crew. I mean, the AFC North's always, you know, competitive, you know, division. But to back up Deshaun Watson, you've got a good team kind of all around, and their head coach is not a bad head coach by all means. I think it's actually a pretty good place for DTR to kind of develop a little bit if he's got to start. Dem boys, the Dallas Cowboys. The first few rounds, I was legitimate like, are they Super Bowl? Are they building a good roster here? I was concerned. Mozzie Smith in round 1 because they're going to get it. They weren't going to reach on the tight end. Who knew? Round 2, Luke Schumacher. Round 3, the guy I wanted, DeMarvin Overshown out of Texas. Round 4, I'm going to botch this name. Vilimai Vihoko Jr., the DN out of San Jose State, a guy I wanted at edge. Tackle Asmund Richards out of North Carolina. Eric Scott, the corner, out of Southern Mississippi. Running back Deuce Vaughn out of Kansas State, and Jalen Brooks, South Carolina, for receiver. I thought the Deuce Vaughn pick at round 6 was good value. Yes, he's 5'5". He's the shortest guy in the league, but he's one of the fastest guys in the league. And then to watch the video of his dad, you know, being one of the scouts in the room to call him, hey, you want to come to work? I thought, to me, I enjoyed it. It's just a all good story. DeMarvin Overshown in round 3, I thought was a great pick. Schumacher was a good grab. Vihoko Jr. I wanted because 12 sacks last year, and then you go 8, 10, 12 over your 3 years at San Jose State. You just get better and better. I wanted him to back up Chase and Montez if we pay him or they get injured. I could honestly give Dallas an A.
Wow. we couldn't differ anymore on this one. Maisie Smith and then Schumacher, it was back-to-back huge reaches. These were 2 guys that I believe would have been, you know, available. Second, Schumacher, in his case, I think would have been available potentially late third, fourth round. And I see what they were doing, but I look at them as they really needed offensive line help
Yeah.
because even with their guys that they've relied on, like look what they're doing on the outside of tackle, bringing back Peters out of retirement, Smith, this is a guy, reminds me of Chris Samuels with the neck injury that eventually, in the near future, he's going to retire off of it.
Yep.
So to not address tackle, I was really surprised. I know they did some moves in free agency, but overshown. I wrote about him pre-draft. Yeah, he to me, he was one of their better picks. And Fehoko out of San Jose State, I actually, if there was another week, I would have had his report out too because I watched all his games and he's legit. Those two, they bring me up to some legitimacy. But I was gonna go with the D, but with those two guys there, I give them the D minus. But yeah, they dropped the pooch on the first two picks. They really could have tried to trade back and still got those guys. But yeah, the third and fourth round that gave an average draft. But yeah, I understand what they're doing with Maisie Smith. But even in Michigan, if you watch what he did, he's a one-trick pony, and I think that teams will be able to really key on him and take him out of games. And Schumacher, he's not nearly as good as the tight end they had last year, and they let him go. So yeah, I think that it worked in Washington's favor. But yeah, they had probably the worst draft in the NFL in my opinion.
I don't know. I gave him a C. Watching Smith, like you were saying, one trick pony. He wasn't that good in college. He isn't better than any of our guys or any of the other NFC East starting defensive tackles. If you compare him to coming out of the draft. But to me, Dallas, they freaked out, picked a bunch of guys that they liked pretty early in what they should have been drafted on. So.
Fair enough. I like to overreact a little bit, but damn, we're on opposite end of the spectrum. I'll
try to give him an A.
I gave him an A.
You lost your mind. You sure you're a true Commanders fan?
I'm heat exhausted right now is what I am. I'm gonna put him right behind the Bengals right there. Call it a C minus. I think the Bengals had a little bit better the draft class than they did, but I can see that. Broncos, they had an interesting draft. They didn't have a draft pick till the second round because of the Russell Wilson trade. All those draft picks are finally finished. Round 2, they pick up Marvin Mims Jr., receiver out of Oklahoma. Round 3, Drew Sanders, linebacker of Arkansas. Also, their other round 3 pick, Riley Moss, a white corner out of Iowa. Round 6, J.L. Skinner, the safety out of Boise State. And round 7, Alex Force, the center out of Oregon. I think the Marvin Mims Jr. grab at round 2. He could have been there in the third. I think Drew Sanders falling to the third was interesting. I could give it a C. C plus.
Yeah, I really like the Sanders pick. Drew Sanders is a guy I wrote about pre-draft, and I just think he does a lot of things really well. He's a middle linebacker that spent a lot of time rushing the passer on the outside. He's still getting his bones at Michael linebacker, so I think he's still a work in progress. But I think early on, they'll really rush him off the edge, try to create pressure. You mentioned Riley Moss. I think this is a guy, we haven't seen really somebody like him since Jason Sehorn for the Giants. So we're talking about decades here. But I do think he'll be serviceable. I don't think he's going to be any kind of superstar, but he's going to be serviceable in that Denver defense. But man, to get J.L. Skinner out of Boise State in the 6th round, I don't know what happened. Again, if I had another week, I watched his games, his report would have been out. I had him going in the 3rd round. I think that, he's really typecast as to that, one safety position. He can move around a little bit. He can cover tight ends. A really long guy, 6 foot, almost 6'4", 6'3", I believe. So to get him that late, that really pushed their draft up to me. So, I give them a solid C plus.
Yeah, I don't know. I give him a C minus. Mims to me was just a little too early. They could have traded back maybe 5 or 6 spots. But Sanders to me was my favorite pick. Moss, so much potential. Skinner, I had him as a late third round pick, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think Skinner had an ACL or MCL injury. I think at the combine or just before the combine, which called him to fall a little bit, like the Voorhees thing. You got the injury, your draft stock kind of falls a little bit. We'll call it a C. I think they had a better draft than the Cowboys, not as good as the Bengals. We'll call it a C. The Detroit Lions. This is where controversy struck hard. Jahmyr Gibbs, round 1, pick 12. Jack Campbell, round 1, pick 18. Sam Laporta in the second, Brian Branch in the second, Hendon Hooker in the third, Broderick Martin, the D tackle of West Kentucky in the third, Colby Sortisol, O tackle out of William and Mary, so up here at the VA, and Antoine Green, receiver out of North Carolina. The Branch pick I like, the Hooker pick I like, Laporta I like. I'm going to give this a C. You reach on Gibbs at 12. You reach a Campbell at 18. You grab a D tackle, which you sort of need in the third, and you grab a receiver for just pure depth reasons at, your round 7. C plus? C?
Yeah, I'll give you the reach on picks because Gibbs and Campbell second round grades. I evaluated Campbell, but in saying that, these guys are going to be legit. You're going to reach. These were a couple guys that you do it with. Laporta, they were calling him Baby Gronk during the draft process. Anybody I talked to from Iowa. But man, Brian Branch, to get him at 45. I was talking about. I'm not sure this is why he dropped. But a lot of people from Alabama, people that went to school with him, I talked to Alabama friends more than anybody, and they were talking about there was a lot of questions about his desire. I'm not sure if that's really what it was that caused him to slip, because a lot of people had him in the top 25. So to me, although they needed more an outside corner, because he's not going to be that guy for you. He's not going to play on the outside. He's a liability on the outside. But similar, we talk about Quan Martin, nickel safety kind of. In the Fitzpatrick mold, former another Alabama Tide member. But I think that, with those back end picks and then a sneaky pick, Broderick Martin out of Western Kentucky, defensive tackle, he's actually sneaky good. He's a guy that's going to create a lot of pressure. They already have the ends over there, so I think he'll collapse the pocket a lot. And then, Colby Sorstai, the old lineman out of William and Mary, that's a guy that not a lot of people talk about. Small school guys, again, none of the week. When I had his evaluation out, I had him in that 5th, 6th round range. I think he's got a ton of upside. He's going to play in the league for 10 years. Not going to be spectacular, not an all pro, but in time, he could be a pro bowler, if all things go right. But the one that's going to stick out for everyone is Gibbs. But man, I think if Gibbs just stays healthy, he's going to be, in a couple of years, they're going to talk about great value from him, because I think they really needed a running back. They were not sold on Swift. That's why they moved him. I was actually glad, not that I think that he's not good, but, there was a lot of talk with Philadelphia getting Robinson, possibly trading for Henry. Those two scenarios I didn't want to see happen. I feel a lot better about them getting Swift, but Gibbs is a huge upgrade over Swift, although a reach. But yeah, I give their draft, one of my favorite drafts, honestly, from top to bottom, a solid B.
Yeah, I give them a B minus. I truly thought Gibbs kind of a reach. I did hear for draft night, Eagles, if they couldn't land Robinson, they'd trade up for Gibbs because he was the number 2 back in this draft class. Jack Campbell to me was just a Van Der Esch 2.0 at linebacker. Huge reach in my opinion, but everybody else on their draft board that they drafted looks pretty solid. Hooker is my favorite pick that they took this draft.
Fair enough. I mean, Justin, you know how high I was on Hooker this entire draft process. I was thinking he'd go first round. Should have gone first round if he wasn't for injury. Top 5 pick. I was high on him. I'm a Florida guy. I shouldn't be saying this about a Tennessee guy. But I thought
you were very, very high on him.
I was high on him. For some good reason. For some good reason I was high on him. The Green Bay Packers. They took some interesting grabs. Lucas Van Ness, round 1, but they took Luke Musgrave in the 2nd round. Jaden Reed, receiver, 2nd round. Tucker Kraft, tight end in the 3rd round. Colby Woolen, linebacker out of Auburn in the 4th. Sean Clifford, QB out of Penn State in the 5th. Dontavian Wicks up here at the University of Virginia in the 5th. Carl Brooks, a linebacker out of Bowling Green in round 6. Anders Carlson, kicker out of Auburn in the 6th. Carrington Valentine, corner out of Kentucky. Lou Nichols, the 3rd running back out of Central Michigan. Anthony Johnson Jr., safety out of Iowa State. And Grant DuBois, receiver out of Charlotte. So they grabbed 3 receivers, 2 tight ends, a QB, an edge, 2 linebackers, a corner, a kicker, and a running back, and a safety. I could give this an honest B. You get weapons across the board. I think they should have gone more O-line in this draft. Maybe take out a receiver for an O-line, take a linebacker out for a guard. I could go B minus. I think, like I said, 3 receivers, 2 tight ends, a running back. More weapons Rodgers ever got in one draft, but I give this a solid B.
Yeah, you said it with the offensive line. If they took an offensive lineman, in those first couple picks, I would have given them a B plus, and depending on who it was, maybe even an A, because I love the double dipping in tight end.
Yeah.
Luke Musgrave and Tucker Craftman. These guys are going to both make impact. They're offensive tight, they're receiving tight ends. They both give a ton of effort in blocking in the run game. But man, these are guys that can really push out. And I think with Love needing some safety blankets, receivers, are good. But I think the spots that they were at, the second and the third round, there was great value for these kind of tight ends, because I think you're going to see a lot of 12 personnel with them, and that's going to really give them an opportunity to utilize those running backs, because I think they have two guys out there that I think are a tremendous 1-2 punch. So if you can have those guys 12 personnel, have the ability to really let Love rip it loose, I think that the double dipping in tight end really, I think, made this a solid drop. I think this would have done Aaron Rodgers happy.
I gave him a B, but it's amazing how it took them let Rodgers go before they actually address the offensive weapons.
Yeah.
Rodgers, don't get me wrong, best QB in Packer history, in my opinion. But like you guys were saying, I do agree they probably should have taken at least an O-lineman or two, because their O-line could just never stay healthy. But also Love, we'll see what Love has this year. But at least he has some weapons this year.
Yeah, I mean, weapons glory. You add him, three receivers, two tight ends on top of what they have in Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson. You've got AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones. We'll see what Matt LaFleur cooks up, because if you got, let's say, two out of these three receivers add up, you've got yourself a trio right there, young, fast guys. Houston Texans, these were some big splash plays. CJ Stroud had pick 2. They trade back up from 12 to 3 to grab Will Anderson Jr. They got Juice Scruggs, the center out of Penn State, in round 2. Tank Dell, receiver, in round 3. Dylan Horton, edge at TCU, in round 4. Henry To'oTo'o, linebacker, in round 5. Jared Patterson, center out of Notre Dame, in round 6. Xavier Hutchinson, receiver, in round 6. And Brandon Hill, safety, in round 7. I think they could have went tackle instead of double dipping at center, but they need the youth and depth. I could honestly give this an A for the amount of just good quality pieces they got all around. Your franchise QB, your franchise stud, Will Anderson Jr., you've solidified your offensive line, at least at the center position. 2 good receivers. You got a good linebacker, good safety, and a good edge piece in Dylan Horton. I could give this an A.
Yeah. I really like their draft. And as far as the 2 centers, Patterson, I really think you're going to see him in guard in their system. So, they got 2 guys to help inside. Tank Dell, sneaky quick receiver. I think that's going to be, a really good weapon for Stroud. But man, moving back up to get Will Anderson. So getting Stroud and Anderson right away, that made it a B plus for me. And then, like you said, Shrugs. And then, some of the guys that got late, Henry To'oTo'o, linebacker, Alabama, is a guy that I evaluated pre-draft. And, again, he's kind of one of that tweener, a little undersized for the Mike linebacker role. But I think with his ability to, thrive in coverage, this guy adds 10, 15 pounds, he can really be a baller. But yeah, I give their draft an A. I really liked what they did. I don't know how you can give them less than an A just for those first 2 picks, to be honest.
This is the only A plus you'll ever hear, but I gave him an A plus. I truly love them taking CJ. Love them trading back up for Anderson, because what team in NFL history has ever done that? Take their quarterback and their linebacker to the future, first round, the top 5 picks. I've never seen a team do it in the NFL. But those 2 were home run picks. Scruggs, coming out of Penn State, to me was the second center I had on my board. Dell, like you were saying, speedy guy. And Henry, 2-2, that linebacker, he to me was watching his film, he made some amazing plays this year. So we'll see what he has for the Texans this year.
Yeah, I think, honestly, if not for Philly, I think the Texans could have had the best draft in this year. If Philly didn't just win the draft like they always do. We'll get into them later. The Colts, they had pieces like 2-3 picks in every round. So bear with me. Anthony Richardson, round 1. Julius Brents, corner, round 2. Josh Downs, receiver, round 3. Blake Freeland, the tackle out of BYU, round 4. I want to botch this name. I'm not even going to try. The D tackle out of Northwestern, I'm going to call him double A. D tackle out of Northwestern in round 4. Darius Rush, corner in round 5. Daniel Scott, safety in round 5. Will Mallory, tight end, round 5. Evan Hull, running back, round 5. Titus Leo, edge, round 6. Jalen Jones, round 7. And Jake Witt, tackle out of North Michigan University, round 7. So they got two tackles, 3 corners, a receiver, tight end, running back, hopefully your QB of the future, and just a good edge and D tackle piece all around. I could give them a B plus.
Yeah, Anthony Richardson, I understand why they did it. Levis was not the pick, so they made the right move. But man, he's getting way overdrafted. This is a guy who needs work, and I think that he's going to have to play sooner rather than later. I don't think you see a 4th overall pick sit very long. But what I do like is the supporting cast that they gave him, because Josh Downs out of Carolina, this kid is, a legit weapon. And then to, get in the back end of the draft, Will Mallory, did I move on the right one? Yeah, Will Mallory, the 5th round out of Miami. This is a guy. He's a decent blocker, but he's going to give you options as that flex kind of tight end. But you mentioned the Northwestern guy. After the Senior Bowl, there was even some talking about him going late 1st, early 2nd. So that's tremendous value. Darius Rush, really good quarterback, another one that really shined during the Senior Bowl. But Julius Brents, this is a guy I evaluated, man, great value. I had him going up all the way into the late 1st round after I evaluated his tape. Really long guy. If you're old enough as me, remember, Dominic Rogers-Camardi, really similar to that, except a lot more physical, a lot more strength in his game. But yeah, even though I don't think Richardson is going to be a star in this league, that's just my opinion. I think he's still give him a solid B for their draft.
I agree with you. I give him a B. Richardson, very questionable. He has a high ceiling in the league if he could learn their system, plays, and and all that. But he's just a big question mark right now. But pretty solid draft by the Colts. I mean, Downs, like you were saying, great weapon. But my favorite pick by them was Freeland. I had him, I want to say, my 4th ranked tackle this year. But he's going to be probably starting this year.
Yeah, I can see him starting, and he jumps super tall. He's a scary athletic guy from what I saw at the combine. I agree. Richardson will need time to grow. Like, I'm a Florida guy, started 13 games at Florida. He should have won against Emory Jones when Mullen his last year. He started Jones over Richardson. I think Richardson could have used the playing time. But from what all I've heard from camp, saying he's not as raw as everyone anticipated, we'll see how things go. So, and he's liking what they're seeing. Time will tell. The Jacksonville Jaguars. Scary good team last year, especially on the back end of the season. You come up from 4 picks against the Chargers to win against them. You almost win against Kansas City. You come into this draft thinking you need some pieces here and there. I think they got them. Anton Harrison, the tackle out of Oklahoma, fell to them at 27. Brent Strange, round 2, pick 30. Tanks Bigsby, the running back, in round 3. My boy Ventrell Miller in round 4, linebacker. Tyler Lacey, DN, round 4. Yasir Abdullah, linebacker, in round 5 out of Louisville. Antonio Johnson, safety, Texas A&M, round 5. Parker Washington, receiver out of Penn State, round 6. Christian Braswell, corner out of Rutgers, in round 6. Eric Hallett, DB out of Pittsburgh, round 6. Cooper Hodges, tackle, round 7. Raymond Vorsic, D tackle out of North Carolina, round 7. And Derek Parrish, edge out of Houston. I think the Brent Strange pick was a reach at round 2, pick 30. I think the Bigsby pick, round 3, pick 25, was a reach. Miller, I can give some leeway because linebacker, once you out of the top 4 or 5, dropped a little bit. So I can see the picks there. And then other than that, you get a good receiver in Washington. You get a solid guy in Brazel, but will need some work. Some depth guys in your other DBs and tackles. I could go B-. I think just because of the Strange and Bigsby reaches, kind of like our thing with Detroit, but just a bit below them.
Yeah. I love the Anton Harrison pick. He's a guy I wrote about pre-draft, and I think the comparisons to Trent Williams, although it's a lot has to do with the school in the same position. He has a ton of upside. Not sure Trent Williams, but that's perfect spot for him. That late first round, that's really good value because I thought he would actually go in the top 25. So I think for what they're trying to run down there, I think you had to get a bookend guy like Harrison. But after that, it was just meh to me. That's what it was like. Nothing really bad. Strange, yeah. I think there was a lot of other value. I think that they should have looked to some receivers that were on the board or even higher end tight ends. But it was just a meh after that. And yeah, I give them a B minus.
I don't know. I gave them a C. A lot of it's because of the reaches, but nothing like wows you in their draft this year. Miller, to me, I had him going third round. Strange, huge reach, and Bigsby. He's somebody to watch out for in their draft class, but just a man draft class for the Jags.
Yeah. Alrighty, C minus. I'm gonna put them right here just ahead of Carolina. The Kansas City Chiefs, the hosting team as the draft was in Kansas City, so they got a few good picks. The feel good pick, obviously, out of Kansas, stay the edge. Felix Anadugay, Uzama, the guy Rashee Rice out of SMU in round 2. Wayne Morris, tackle out of Oklahoma, round 3. Shamari Connor, corner out of VTech, round 4. BJ Thompson, edge, round 5. Kodre Coburn, T tackle out of Texas, round 6. And Nick Jones, corner out of Ball State in round 7. I think just outside of the Uzama grab and the Morris grab, I could give them a C. Nothing just really splashed. Nothing said this is what we need. Corner, edge, D tackle, corner, and then you grabbed a tackle just to replace one of your tackles you lost, and then a receiver. I could go C.
Yeah, I just really wasn't enamored with all their picks. Morris, I think they replaced Wiley, who we got, so he'll probably play on the right side from day one. I don't know if maybe they do have intentions of playing him a left tackle. He played with, like we just talked about, Anton Harrison. He was the other bookend there, so I don't know if they're thinking about possibly playing him a left tackle, but can also move inside. So I really like that pick. And Rice, he definitely fits the Kansas City mold. But yeah. just average draft for them. I think that there was other guys on the board, especially when you got into the 4th, 5th round, that really could have helped them. I give them a C plus.
I just give them a solid C. I mean, it was another man kind of draft. My favorite pick was Morris. Definitely going to be a good future offensive tackle, but nothing really wowed me at all by them.
Yeah. I think just because they already had the Super Bowl, you didn't really lose a whole lot of pieces in the offseason, and then you didn't add a whole lot back. So, I agree. It's meh. Las Vegas Raiders got some grabs. Tyree Wilson, edge at pick 7 round 1. I can't speak. Michael Meyer, tight end round 2. Byron Young, D tackle round 3. Trey Tucker, receiver round 3. Jacorin Bennett, corner round 4. Aiden O'Connell, quarterback round 4. Chris Smith, the second safety, round 5. Amari Booney, linebacker out of Florida, round 6. And Nesta Jade Silvera, D tackle at Arizona State. I think after Wilson and Meyer, their draft kind of sunk a little bit. Receiver's good, corner's good. He really didn't need a backup QB, but I guess it makes sense. And then safety, linebacker, D tackle. 0 offensive line whatsoever. Has always been one of their worst just groups. You reach on Leatherwood 2 years ago, and he's been out of the organization. I'm gonna give this another C, maybe a B minus because of the Wilson and Meyer pick, but I give it a C.
Yeah, I'm with you. I give it a C too. Meyer, it's okay value, but he's definitely not going to replace Waller. You talk about double dipping. This is a team that probably should have took 2 tight ends and a receiver within their first 4 or 5 picks, because I don't know why they're putting all their eggs in one basket. With what happened after losing Ruggs, they have a bunch of okay guys, except for Adams, of course. I think you heard in the media, Adams was talking about the other day that they didn't seem to share the same vision with him. And I think just reading the tea leaves, he was looking for offensive line help and another receiver, another potential star receiver. So they really dropped the ball on that. Tyree Wilson, solid pass rusher. So, I think he got taken right where I thought he would. But in the third round, Byron Young from Alabama, that guy, I had him as a fifth rounder, you know, a little bit undersized, you know, really not a great producer, more of a product of the Alabama defense. They just had mad talent around him.
Yep.
So, you know, I give him a C, you know, like of all drafts for them not to, you know, really invest in a speedy wide receiver to go the opposite of Adams. Yeah, they dropped the ball on that.
C, I give him a C minus. I liked their first two picks, but other than that, it was just, you know, meh, nothing exciting. No offensive line at all. Which how are you going to protect Jimmy this year? You know, you're just going to let him have 3 seconds to throw, or are you going to let him build more time with a better offensive line? But you know,
Yeah, this is a mad draft all around. The Los Angeles Chargers, the first LA team to be on the board. They grabbed Quentin Johnson in receiver round 1. Tuli Tuipulotu, the edge of the USC round 2. Deion Henley, the linebacker at Washington State in round 3, someone I wanted for Washington. Darius Davis, receiver in round 4 out of TCU. Jordan McFadden, guard out of Clemson round 5. Scott Madlock, D tackle in round 6. And Mac Duggan, a QB out of TCU in round 7. I think the Johnson pick was what they needed. Henley, which is a good linebacker to grab in round 3. McFadden will serve as a serviceable guard from the round 5. And then Darius, Tuli, and Matlock will just serve as depth and practice squad pieces. C+, B- at best, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, I give him a B, not B minus. You know, those first two picks, you know, the USC pass rusher, I think he's going to be a good one. They really like TCU, 3 guys from there. I like Dugan. I really like him as a career backup. He's a solid guy, solid game manager. But yeah, Deion Henley, he's one of my favorite linebackers in the class. So if it wasn't for him, I probably would have gave them maybe a C minus, but I think I probably bump them up to, you know, a B just on the Johnson, the first 3 picks. Those were solid guys. Those are all going to be starters for you. So if you can get your first 3 picks as starters and, you know, your other guys, you know, as solid depth guys, yeah, I got to give them, I'll give them a B.
I go B minus. First 3 picks, like you were saying, they're going to be good, decent starters. Hensley, my favorite pick they took this year. But the other 4 guys probably wouldn't be backups. Watch out for McFadden this year. He could be a huge help in their offensive line because their O-line can just never stay healthy.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And then the other LA team, the Rams, had, actually, in my opinion, one of the better-ish drafts coming out. So they moved up to 36 to pick Steve Avila, the guard at TCU, another TCU boy in the LA region. Byron Young, edge out of Tennessee in round 3. Kobe Turner, D tackle in Wake Forest in round 3. Stetson Bennett, QB out of Georgia in round 4. Nick Hampton, edge, round 5. Warren McClendon Jr., tackle out of Georgia in round 5. Davis Allen, tight end Clemson in round 5. Puka Nuka, receiver round 5. Travarius Hodges Tomlinson, corner round 6. He went lower than I thought. O'Shawn Mathis, edge, round 6. Zach Evans, running back, round 6. Ethan Evans, punter, round 7. Jason Taylor, the second safety, round 7. And Jon Justin, DN in round 7. So they had a really, really lot of late round picks, but I think they got some good pieces. I think Avila was a great grab. I think Stetson Bennett will be a good backup to Fred Stafford. You got a tackle, you got a receiver, you got a tight end, a running back, and then just good pieces at depth for depth at edge, the end, THT, the corner, edge out of Appalachian State in the 5th, D tackle in your 3rd. Go B+ for this.
Yeah. What's funny that the Stetson Bennett pick, man, that I can't stand this guy. Just everything that, you know, forget the drunken disorderly stuff, whatever, that's college stuff. But the refusing to go to the Senior Bowl was a really big surprise to me. Like, he's one of the quarterbacks that needed to be there the most. So I'm shocked that he went in the 4th. I actually thought he would potentially go undrafted. Honestly, I think you're going to see him out of the league within 2-3 years. I don't even think he'll finish out a rookie contract. It's just his how he carries himself, and I think stay, for a year, he'll be all right in the backup role. But when he starts to get past that, I think that this guy is just a disaster. The Steve Avila pick, I wrote about him, one of my favorite interior linemen in the draft. But the rest of the picks, I just felt that they were nothing special. So the Steve Avila, that brings him to a C plus for me. Otherwise, if it wasn't for him, I'd give him a D. But Steve Avila, that guy's going to be a baller.
Yeah, I agree with you. I give him a C, roughly a C. Tomlinson to me was my favorite pick. He was somebody just because of size. His value was lowered because of that. But I hate Bennett. No offense, I just don't like him. He reminds me of that not Baker Mayfield, but Johnny Manziel attitude. I'm better than you. I don't need to train, that type of deal.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, he'll fit right in with Sean McVay. Just loved him some swagger, I guess. The Dolphins only had 4 picks this year just because of the tampering with Brady and the owner and that hot mess. But second round, they got Cam Smith, corner. Round 3, Devon Achane, running back at Texas A&M. Round 6, Elijah Higgins, receiver. Round 7, Ryan Hayes, tackle. Outside of Achane, the running back, and maybe Smith, I could give them a D, honestly. They had 4 picks, but they weren't like great, going to change your type of offense or defense picks. You can go D.
Yeah, I think that they, you only have a couple picks. You got to make the most out of them.
Yeah.
And, Cam Smith, that was decent value at 51. He's in that 35 to, 40 range. So nothing special.
Yep.
But yeah, just D plus. There's really not much to say.
Yeah, I agree. A D plus. To me, they should have traded back to get more picks because this draft class, day 3, was loaded. But yeah.
It was man. Minnesota Vikings, they had some all right picks. Jordan Addison, round 1, so you pair him up with KJ Osborne and Justin Jefferson, they might be a good team, just not with Kirk Cousins. They went double corner, round 3, Mekhi Becton out of USC, and Jay Ward, corner out of LSU in round 4. Jaquelin Roy, D tackle out of LSU in round 5. Jaron Hall, QB out of BYU in round 5. And Dwayne McBride, running back out of UAB. McBride and Addison, I think, were my favorite picks all around because McBride could have been a round 5 type of guy with what he was producing, and then just good pieces in Becton and Ward and Roy, and then Hall will just be a perennial backup for right now. C minus, C plus, D plus, right in that range, I think. Just a Met draft.
Yeah, I agree. I was a little surprised with Addison. I understand what they want to do, but especially after they let go of their longtime receiver. So I think that at 23, I think this defense is not good enough to pass on that position, with their early round pick. I think that they should have probably gone the defensive side of the ball. There was a lot of talent on the board that they could have got because the rest of them, Blackman, Ward, Roy, these guys, I have a feeling that they're just going to be depth guys, nothing. So, with the opportunity they had to upgrade, I just didn't think that they did enough. I give them a C.
Yeah, I agree with you. I give them a C too. To me, I thought they should have traded back this year. Receiver was pretty stacked this year, but they I don't know. Linebacker was a need. Another O lineman would have been better. Interior defensive line would have been a better pick, but just another meh kind of draft.
Yeah, and now especially you trade Zadarius Smith to Cleveland. Now you really got nothing on the defensive line that scares anyone. So there's that. The New England Patriots, they had a draft class all in their own right. Christian Gonzalez, round 1. Keon White, round 2. Marty Mapu, round 3. Jake Andrews, round 4. Chad Ryland, a kicker, round 4. Sidney So, guard, round 4. Antonio Mafi, guard, round 5. Keyshawn Booty, round 6. Bryce Behringer, punter, round 6. Jamario Douglas, round 6. Amir Speed, DB, round 6. And Isaiah Bolden out of Jackson State is a corner in round 7. I mean, they had pieces all around. You got 2 guards in the center. You got a linebacker, a corner, an edge, a receiver, a punter, a kicker, another receiver, 2 more DBs. I mean, I can give this a B plus just because they got kind of pieces sprinkled all around.
Yeah, to me, I give them an A because Isaiah Bolden, he's a guy I interviewed there in the pre-draft process. I'm the small school HBC guy. That what I love to, find these diamonds in the rough. And it was Kyle Duggar was the year before, as another guy I interviewed that they ended up taking him up as their hybrid safety, having a hell of a career over there with them. But, I also evaluated the kid out of Sacramento State, Marty Mapp, who actually had him going 5th round. So they got him a lot earlier than I expected. But, this is a guy that I thought could fit the Buffalo nickel role for Washington at that linebacker. He's a hybrid, strong safety linebacker. I think is just scratching the surface. And, just having the balls to, grab the Maryland kicker in the 4th, I loved it. I was hoping to see Washington grab a kicker late for some competition because I'm not sold on, Mr. Joey. I just love what Bill Belichick does. If you just look from top to bottom, all these guys are going to play early. Christian Gonzalez, that just, fell into his lap. But I think, Keon White, this is a guy, perfect New England guy that's going to be able to go inside and outside, in and out. Solid A. I really love what he did in this draft. I usually do.
I like it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you there. An A minus. Gonzalez, just a perfect pick. Top 10 prospect, fell right into their lap, like you were saying. The other couple people, White, pretty solid edge rusher, But my favorite pick for them was Bolden. I truly thought he would have been taken round 4, round 5, but just because he was from a smaller school, he didn't get taken earlier than what he should have been. And he's going to turn some heads this year.
Former Florida State guy, he was led the nation in kick returns. It was like 36 yards per kick return in 2021. Transfer from Florida State just to play under Dion. So that's a guy, he's got a chip on his shoulder. My conversation with him, I really think he was getting, when he got his draft estimate from his agents, he was being told anywhere between the late 3rd to 5th round. So to get him that late, he's going to come with a chip on his shoulder. Big guy, 6'2". So yeah, I think him and Mapu, those two small go HBCU guys, I think that they're getting a great value as well.
Yeah, I think if Bolden even, let's say, makes it 53 and starts, Deanna's already going to be proud of him just to get drafted.
Yeah,
so I think he's in terms of meds, like you said.
Yeah, what he has going for him is he's a returner. So I give you that's what he got drafted for. He'll be a back end DB, but yeah, he'll be also a guy that they'll be able to use as safety too. So a lot of leeway with him.
Yeah, I like it. The New Orleans Saints, they had a good draft all in their own right. Brian Brzee, D tackle in round 1. Isaiah Folkley, edge, round 2. Condre Miller out of TCU, the running back, round 3. My boy Nick Zalbardini, the guard out of ODU, round 4. Jake Haener, QB out of Fresno State in round 4. Jordan Howden, round 5, a safety. And A.T. Perry, the receiver out of Wake Forest, round 6. I mean, they got pieces to solidify the defensive line to help out Cam Jordan and DeMario Davis. You got a good running back to back up Alvin Kamara. You got my boy Nick, good solid guard just to help out the O-line because they need it. QB and safety just as their backups, and then A.T. Perry will just probably be on special teams and your 4th, 5th receiver. B minus, B. I think this all around is a good draft, but nothing's gonna, kind of raise your arms like, man, they got knocked out of the park.
Yeah, I'm with you. B minus is what I'm giving him. Breeze, he's a guy I'm just not sold on a lot of these Clemson guys, especially going that high. You talk about KJ Henry of Washington later. I'm okay with that, but these early round investments, they just have not panned out over the last decade plus. Foskey, Notre Dame, that's a guy who's another role player. But yeah, I evaluated Nick Saldiveri, and I think he's going to be a legit interior guy. If not for him, I really liked him in that 3rd round. I would have gave them a C minus, but I'll give him a solid C for their draft.
I don't know. I had a C plus for them. Their D line was a huge issue last year, but at least they went back, got Miller as an extra backup running back for Kamara.
Yeah.
And he gets a tackle out of Notre Dame, or not Notre Dame, Old Dominion, excuse me, who I truly did think he'd go day 2, day 3, early day 3, but.
Yeah. Hey, I'm this guy we got in, a guy on the board, round 3 to ODU. I like it. I needed some of that. The New York Giants had a draft in their own right. Deontay Banks, corner, round 1. John Michael Schmitz, round 2. Jalen Hyatt, round 3. Eric Gray, running back, round 5. Trey Hawkins, a third, another corner out of ODU, round 6. Jordan Riley, tackle out of Oregon, round 7. And Javarius Owens, round 7. I think their first 3 picks, I don't want to say it, but they were good picks, though. Your starting center, Michael Schmitz. Your starting receiver in Jalen Hyatt, a damn good corner in Banks. You got a good running back behind Saquon McGray. Hawkins will be a good, practice squad to, backup corner. And then Riley and Owens will just be your kind of perennial backups. I'm giving them a B, honestly. To me, they had a good draft.
I'm high on their draft. I gave them an A. Banks and Schmitz are the two guys out of the 33 I evaluated. Two are right there, instant plug and play guys. Banks, a lot of people thought he could have gone a lot higher. I think Washington. I think between Forbes, him and Gonzalez, it's one of those guys you can't go wrong. But yeah, Schmidt's plug and play guy. I think they really had to focus on, offensive line with Daniel Jones because, the way he likes to maneuver out of the pocket. Schmitz is not a guy that's going to wow you out in space, but man, he's just a solid technician. And yeah, that guy's going to see carries. He's going to see, time in third down passing receiving packages. But Jalen Hyatt, I think this is a guy who really helped make his quarterback look as good as well. That everyone talking about his quarterback went to Detroit, but Hyatt in his own right is a guy I think that's really going to have a really good career. I think that with Washington, I think he's not gonna be an easy outing. But yeah, I give him an A. I think they really hit it out of the park. And right now, to me, they have their staff in Philadelphia are the best coaching staff in the NFL right now.
I want to give him an A minus. I truly love the Banks pick. That to me, I didn't think we were taking Forbes, but we did. I thought Porter would have been gone too. Gonzalez and all those guys have been all gone. But my favorite pick was Hyatt. He's going to torch us. Like, no offense, great receiver. I thought he'd be a day 2 pick, not a round 3 kind of guy. But I'm a little nervous about their draft and how the Giants are going to be versing us this year.
Yeah, I think Jalen Hyatt could be their number 1 receiver because it's him, Sterling Shepard, and then who else? Like, their receiving core doesn't scare me, but they got speed, which is what kills in the NFL. Is good speed and good hands. And Hyatt's got a little bit of both. So we will see. The other New York team, the team with the bad man, that is Aaron Rodgers, solidified another good draft. I don't like their first round pick though. Will McDonald, the 4th edge at Iowa State. Joe Tippmann, the center, round 2. I like that. Carter Warren, round 4, the tackle. Israel Abadandaka. I'm botching these names, guys. I'm sorry. Running back out of Pittsburgh. Zaire Barnes, linebacker out of West Michigan. Jarek Bernard, Converse, corner out of LSU. And Zach Kuntz out of ODU, the tight end in round 7. I like that grab. I give him a B. I think the Tippmann grab, the Israel grab, and the Kuntz grab were all good. Kuntz will just be their 4th-string, 3rd-string tight end because you've got Rucker, you got Uzama, and you've got I forget the other tight end, but he'll be 3 or 4. Timmon will start right away. You grab a tackle in Warren just because Vera Tucker and Mekhi Becton are always injured. So you grab someone there. Barnes will be a decent linebacker. Converse will be a solid backup corner. And then Israel will just back up Brees Hall and Knight, the other running back. Zach Knight, I forget. So I could be.
Yeah, you said it all pretty much. Jets are a team I follow closely, living in New York. Israel is going to be a legit 1-2 punch of Brees Hall. Brees Hall, before he got hurt, that guy was going to be one of the top backs in the NFL as far as statistics go. And I think if it wasn't the Will McDonald pick, I think that was an opportunity. That's where I saw Dalton Kincaid going. I thought that was, a guy that they have receivers, but I think if they gave Aaron Rodgers a guy like him, I think that could have made this draft, an A. But I think they didn't have to go that early. I think that they could have still got their pass rusher a little later on. But for their class overall, I like the picks. The Pittsburgh did back-to-back Pittsburgh picks. I think fit needs for them. So I give them a solid B.
I don't know. I go B minus. I thought McDonald taking a little too early. I had him going maybe late 1st round. Timmerman to me, probably going to be the best center since Dick Mangold, if you guys remember him from the 2010s. But I mean, they did have a solid draft.
Yeah, I think. I mean, obviously, I'm going to show a little bias with ODU. I think Kuntz getting him in the 7th considering his size and speed were good. Obviously, he was injured the whole season for us, which is a bummer for us. But you get him healthy. He was running a 4.40, jumping high at 6'7". He was like the tallest guy now in the NFL at 6'7", 6'8". If you get him healthy with what they run, he could be dangerous. But I think the Will McDonald grab, if you just swapped Buffalo and the Jets picks around, it'd make more sense for everyone. They need edge help. They need a tight end help. You'd swap those, and we'd all be saying A's for both, or A+ for both teams. But it is what it is. The Philadelphia Eagles. What else is to be said about their draft class? That they've already won the draft. Jalen Carter at 9, Nolan Smith at 30, Tyler Steen in round 3, Sidney Brown in round 3, Keely Ringo round 4, Tanner McGee round 6, Moro Ojimo round 7, and then you trade for DeAndre Swift. So you just went all Georgia. I think they just won the draft. There's an A++ column. I think Philly goes in there.
Yeah, the best draft class, A+. I think being able to have Carter, that's what they just barely move up just to get him, and still get Nolan Smith later on. It was crazy. Then the fact that Ringo went as late as he did, I had him with an early second round grade. So I don't really know what happened with him. I hear that maybe they're thinking of moving him to safety, and even if that's true, I think that's great value. And then we're talking about another Illinois guy, along with Witherspoon. Sidney Brown, I think that's a guy that's going to be able to plug and play for them. A+. They just kept even their later round picks. The kid out of Texas, that guy's just a solid. Not that they need another really D tackle right now, but that guy's solid. And a developmental guy, Tanner McKee, Stanford 6th round. That shocked me. I had him going, in that 4th round, maybe even early 5th round. So yeah, great value, best draft in the class.
Yeah.
I don't know. I gave him an A. Hear me out though. I didn't like Jalen Carter's attitude. That's like one of the knocks I've had when I was scouting him. His just attitude, I'm better than you, I'll be selfish and do this and that. I just didn't like it. But other than that, he's a very talented player. They hit home runs on all their draft picks this year.
Yeah. I mean, Justin and Adam, I'll kind of explain why Justin says as him, me, and Andrew, when we normally run our 3-way, we were all kind of saying the cocky attitude, saying I'm not going to meet with anyone out of the top 10. That attitude, everything that's going on with the car crash and that horrible incident that left 2 people not with us anymore. That attitude of, I'm better, not going to meet, and that just didn't sit well with us. So I think out of the Carter pick, I can see why he fell to 9, just with what we were saying. But I think we all agree Philly won this draft by like a country mile.
Yeah.
The Pittsburgh Steelers, they had a draft in their own right. They moved up with New England because New England, plays some mind games. They have the Sith Lord as a head coach. Broderick Jones, tackle out of Georgia, round 1. They needed O-line help, and boy, did they get it. Joey Porter Jr., round 2, pick 1. What else did we say? Good corner, goes to play with the franchise his dad played with. Good pick. Keanu Benton, D tackle, round 2. Darnell Washington, one of the steals of the draft in round 3. Nick Herbig, linebacker, round 4. Corey Trice, corner, round 7. And Spencer Anderson, guard, round 7. I mean, you shored up the D-line with Herbig and Benton. You got a good corner in Porter. You got a good backup corner with Trice. And you shored up your tackle with Jones, a good backup with Anderson. And then you just get a stud tight end in round 3 with Darnell Washington. Move with Pat Freiermuth. Kenny Pickett's got some weapons. I could give them a B+.
Yeah, I really like what they did in the draft. I thought Benton the 2nd at 49. I think they could have gone other places, but yeah. I don't know how Joey Porter Jr. fell. I had him as a top 25 pick. So that's a great value there. Broderick Jones, he doesn't have a ton of starting experience, but I think he's going to be really good for them. I think they've needed, a tackle of his caliber for a long time. I've just been putting Band-Aids on that line for dating back to early Roethlisberger days. That's how long it's been. So I think they finally, got that guy, probably the best since Pouncey that they've drafted along the offensive line. But yeah, solid B that I give for their draft. Washington, he's still got a long way to go, but they already got Freiermuth, like you said. So I think to have 12 personnel, what they have, 2 tight ends like that, I think these were all need and really great value on a lot of those picks.
I give them a solid B. I love their first 2 picks, home run hits. Jones, yeah, lack of experience, but pretty solid tackle. Porter, home run, hometown talent. But Washington, to me, he was Jordan Reed 2.0. I loved watching Darnell Washington. I get he has a long way to go, but his NFL ceiling is very high.
Yeah. I mean, I think just overall, you got good picks in Jones, Herbig, Porter Jr., good picks all around. The 49ers to me, they had a questionable draft. They didn't have a pick till the 3rd round. Jair Brown, safety to Penn State at round 3. Jake Moody, kicker, round 3. Cameron Latu, tight end, round 3. Darrell Luter Jr., corner, round 5. Robert Beal, edge, round 5. D. Winters, linebacker, round 6. Braden Willis, tight end, round 7. Lonnie Bell, receiver, round 7. And Jalen Graham, linebacker, round 7. You double dipped a tight end. You got a kicker with your 2nd pick in this entire draft class. You grabbed a safety, you grabbed a corner, grabbed an edge, and grabbed another linebacker. I'm tempted to give them a D. I'm not a fan of the draft class outside of D. Winters and Jair Brown.
Yeah, I'm going to save a lot of time. I'm going to give him a D. I actually like Darrell Luter Jr., another small school guy, South Alabama HBCU. I really liked what he got, good value in the 5th round. But other than that, yeah, I don't know what they're doing out there. This is a surprising draft for me.
D, like a kicker, 3rd round. You're going to have me. I have PTSD from the Robert Agario from the Bucks from Florida State. Kicker that early. But I mean, other than Winters, that I wasn't truly a fan of their class. It's like somebody's just trying to get fired. And how do you improve your team?
Yeah, I don't know. Seattle Seahawks, to me, I'm gonna give them a B plus, if not A, just right off the bat. Devon Witherspoon, corner, with your first pick. Jackson Smith to Jigba at pick 20. Derek Hall, edge, round 2. Zach Charbonnet, running back, round 2. Anthony Bradford, guard, round 4. Cameron Young, D tackle, round 4. Mike Morris, D end, round 5. Oluwatimi, center, Michigan, round 5. Jarek Reed, safety, round 6. And then Kenny McIntosh, round 7, another running back. Charbonnet, I can understand. Like, their first 4 picks, I think, hit it out the park. Bradford's a good guard. Olu's a good center. But then you double doink with the extra running back in round 7. To me, they would have had an A to A plus range if it wasn't for the last 2 picks. So I'll bring them down to maybe a B plus.
Yeah, no, I'll give him an A because I think, with Witherspoon, the kid at Ohio State, and Carbonate, he's a guy I really like. Even though they have Walker out there, I hear what you're saying to McIntosh, but I think having the option to have, that 3-headed monster, and they still have other guys. So in the end, McIntosh, late round, he could get pushed to the practice squad. But I give them a B plus. I really like what they did. I think Witherspoon is a baller. And Carbonet, again, I really loved him. And then adding another receiver that wasn't expected, so that you could consider that some of a reach, but not for the player himself. But yeah, they had a really good draft.
I am a B plus too. I mean, they're trying to with Witherspoon. To me, they're trying to bring back the Legion of Boom, the secondary on their defense.
Yeah,
Kid from Ohio State, home run hit. All to me, a little early, but other than that, they had a pretty solid draft class.
yeah. I mean, especially with Tyler Lockett getting up there in age and then contract, Smith and Jigba and DK Metcalf will be a problem for the next 3 to 5 years. I'm convinced. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they had a draft. To me, they just had a draft. Kalaje Cansey, round 1, the D tackle. Cody Mauch, round 2 tackle. Yaya Diaby, D end, round 3. Servioka Dennis, linebacker, round 5. Payne Durham, tight end, round 5. Josh Haynes, DB, round 6. Trey Palmer, receiver, round 6. And Jose Ramirez, edge, round 6. I mean, the Kalaje Cansey grab, I think, was early at 19, especially with needs at O-line, needs at running back, needs at corner, needs at safety. And then Mauch, I think, was a good pick. I think Diaby, Yaya at Louisville was a good pick. Trey Palmer in the 6 was good wasn't wasn't a great draft all around.
Yeah, I'm with you. I do like the first two picks, but I agree. I think they could have gone another direction with those first two picks. I think both of those guys are going to be solid players, but I think they had other needs. So yeah, I'm with you. I'll give them a C.
I don't know. I had a C minus for him. I wasn't a big fan of Conti. I would rather have them gone another direction. You know,
Yeah.
my favorite pick they got was Monch, the offensive tackle from North Dakota State. But other than that, it was just a man kind of draft.
Yeah. The Tennessee Titans, they went all offense with their draft. Part of me loves it, part of me questions it, but let's get into it. Round 1, Peter Skoronski. To me, he fell to 11. To me, he fell because you took Johnson Jr. and you took Darnell Wright in front of him. I think Skoronski was a better overall player, but I think his short arms or whatever he had. Will Levis, round 2, pick 2. Levis fell for reasons, but there's that. Tajay Spears, round 3, good running back. Josh Wiley, tight end, round 5. Jalen Duncan, Maryland tackle at round 6. And Colton Dowell, receiver, in round 7. Again, they went all offense. I think they could have used a D tackle or a corner or line, something, because their defense is not great. But you have your 2 tackles for the future. You have a tight end and a running back. Maybe your quarterback for the future is what they're hoping on. And then there's a good serviceable, backup receiver in Dowell in round 7. I'm going to give him a C+, just because you didn't address defense at all. Just doesn't sit right.
Yeah, I'm gonna give him a C minus. I think Will Levis, even though that might be viewed as good value, I don't think he's good. I don't think he's gonna be good in this league at all. And I think, yeah, as far as comparing him to Malik Willis, I think Willis has a ceiling, but I think you can do a lot of things with him that you can't really do with Will Levis. Will Levis played in pro system; it just didn't look good. So I have a lot of concerns about Tajay Spears is a guy I wrote about, and Jalen Duncan, 2 guys I wrote about. So those 2 picks right there, I liked what they did on the back end of the draft, but in a whole, I just think that they could have done a lot more. They definitely should have got a cornerback. They're not good enough to play in that division with the corners they have. But I see what they're doing. They spent a lot of money on the defense, and especially on the linebackers and the interior defensive line. So to me, that could have been their thinking. But yeah, I'm gonna give them a C minus.
I'll meet you in the middle. I'll give him a C. I mean, Levis, I get you're saying you don't think he's going to be good. I think he's just going to be okay. He's just going to be a serviceable number 2 kind of quarterback, not a starter. It's going to be that Colt McCoy kind of. I'm gonna win you a couple games, but I'm not special. But I really do like them taking Spears though.
Yeah, Tajay Spears out of playing, I think was a good grab. Him and Derrick Henry maybe doing a 1-2 punch behind a building offensive line could be good, or could be horrific. Let's see. And then finally, our Washington Commanders. We all know and partially love at times. We all know the draft. Forbes, Martin, Stromberg, Daniels, Henry, Rodriguez, and Jones Jr. I could give us a B. I think C+, B minus, C+ territory. I think Forbes was a good grab since stepping back from the draft and cooling my system down. Stromberg and Daniels were good grabs. Henry was a good backup. Rodriguez will be good. Probably a B, solid B, I think.
Yeah, I'm a little higher. I started with a solid B, but then after I watched Martin's film and Stromberg's, I really bumped him up to a B plus. I think going back to back corners. I think with what they've invested in the defensive line, and it's probably going to be either Sweat or Chase Young, one or the other. But I think, Curl is a guy that they have to get locked up as well. So, locking up that defensive backfield now, they're going to be in the same situation with the defensive line. I really believe that Forbes and Martin are going to be, come payday. I think these guys are going to be some of the better ones in the league. So I gave them a B plus. I really like what they did. The back end of the draft, I could have seen them go in other directions, but I still like the moves. Solid B plus.
I'm gonna have to agree with that. You there, B plus. After doing a lot of film study, a lot of cooling down after the draft, Forbes to me was the pick. When's the last time we had a ball hawk?
Right.
Spencer D'Angelo Hall.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
Forbes, solid pick. I hope we play more man-to-man this year. Martin, I've seen a decent amount of film on him. He's going to wow some people. Strongberg, still should have been early day 2 pick.
Yep.
Yeah.
KJ, that dude's going to be taking Young or Sweat spot next year. But it was a pretty solid draft.
Yeah. Yeah, probably. But guys, as long as this did take, this is our NFL draft tier list. Obviously, Philly won the draft. Miami and San Francisco did a whole lot of nothing. And then just pretty good drafts all around. Nothing. I mean, you got 4 A's, 2 for 9 C's, and about 20.
Ballers, hold up. We got a few sponsors we need to personally thank for here at Ballin and Burgundy. First, our guy Washington on the Daily, what about Instagram and YouTube, huge sponsor. We want to give our massive thanks out to them. You can follow Washington on the Daily, both on Instagram and on Twitter, WSH on the Daily. Our guy Tony, who's Pro Tech Sports Network, huge thanks to him. I met up with him at the Commanders Vikings game. Huge thanks to him. Our guy Sanchez at On the Warpath podcast over on YouTube and on Instagram. And then finally, our guy Rio Robinson, Mr. Rambling with Rio himself, our new sponsor, and a huge thanks to him. Met up with him at the Vikings Commanders game as well. Said thank you to him. Again, huge thanks. Again, all of their Instagrams and YouTubes are going to be down in the description. You guys go follow all of them. And again, one big thank you to Rio, Tony, Sanchez, Washington on the Daily for being sponsors of not only today's video, but Ballin and Burgundy as a podcast. Get back to work.
And now we return you to our regular scheduled program.
B's, about 20 B's. B pluses, B minuses, what you want to call it. But there is our tier list. That took a little bit longer than I expected, but I do tend to talk a lot, so that is on me. I'm just going to hop right into the news, as we all wanted to hear. Josh Harris, Magic Johnson, the group is buying the Washington Commanders. Finally getting rid of Dan Snyder. What do y'all think?
We still got a couple months off, but I think that, just seeing what he's done with the Sixers in New Jersey, I think he's got a lot of slack because people just don't seem to remember what the situation the Sixers in before he got there. They were really bargain shoppers. They weren't really looking to invest in the team. And I think, this is a guy that, not like Snyder, how he was trying to play fantasy football with like Deion Sanders, Bruce Smith, and then, trading Champ Bailey away, not trying to figure out a solution, because that was one of the worst moves, I think, in his reign in DC, because I think Champ Bailey could have been, how you have Darryl Green and him in our lifetime, that would have just been amazing. But I think the Harris group is probably the best scenario, because I think Magic Johnson's going to be put, front and center as, kind of a de facto spokesman. But all the fans, I think that it's not going to be done. Unfortunately, I think the next topic is everyone's the stadium, and then shortly after that, it's going to be like, are you going to change the name? I think the stadium is the definite. What I've been hearing is 2031. So what a lot of people are thinking that's going to mean is a move back to DC, because they're going to need a lot more time than they would for a potential Virginia, Maryland site. There's talk that 1.5 billion would be funded by Virginia. I believe they talked about money allocated once they sold the team. So that's going to be, something to watch. But what's really, I think, is branding. They need to get fans for the bringing fans back. I think that's not something like a businessman like him is going to really focus on, because a team like this, you want to bring fans in. I think that's why looking at the RFK side, looking at DC, having a city, might not be, the ideal spot as far as maximum capacity. But I think what you can do in DC is really going to put them on the map. I think they need to get back there. But then the name change, I think that might take a lot longer. But I think the main goal is going to be winning. And I think that he will make some wholesale changes, not right away. I think if the offense does well, and the team just does subpar overall, I think, Del Rio and EB could get some credit, and this could be what pushes Ron out. But, as many people that like Jason Wright, he's a nice guy. Don't get me wrong. He's done a lot of good things. I think that's a guy that you could see removed right away. Because I think that he'll want to bring his money guys, and I don't think that he's going to let him, continue to be part of the whole stadium process, anything that, and he's not really in charge of the roster. And he's like a glorified PR guy, to be honest with you. From what I see, he makes the pod runs, everything like this. You just don't see team presidents doing that, to be honest with you. I don't think he's going to fit the traditional president role that they're going to be looking for, but, it's coming. It's finally here. I've been long suffering. I've been a fan since '82, so I've seen the glory years. To see all of this, it's definitely been heartbreaking.
Yeah. Justin,
Party time. My depression is gone. Bruce Allen, he gone. And Snyder, his ass is out of here. I mean, my whole childhood was ruined by two people. Bruce Allen and Snyder. Don't hit the door on your way out. But I don't know. I thought the Harris group, best group out there. Some of them are DC natives, born and raised, lived in the DMV area. I just hope all goes well next week, I think they said, when it gets approved and voted on. If I remember correctly.
I've heard news that it won't be brought up at this May 21, 22 meeting. So unless they make a special meeting like they did for the Broncos ownership turnover, this won't get touched till like September time.
Well, this is painful.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be pretty much in the home stretch at the end of July, is everything that I'm hearing. They will call a special meeting, but the thing is, the vetting process was already done with pretty much all the guys part of this, because a lot of them were part of when they put a bid on Denver when the Broncos were sold. So I think a lot of that has been done already, and that was a 64-day turnaround. So I think it'll be a little longer than that, but it'll probably put, like I said, end of July sounds about right to me.
Yep, and that would make sense for considering how long this did eventually take. I think considering there were multiple bidders. It's the off season. It was draft time. Nothing was going to trump that. And then, like you said, the vetting process is already done. But the fact that it's not just one guy, it's Harris, Johnson, Rails, and then like 15 other investors. It was going to take a little bit while. But tweets like you're saying, 1.5 billion from Virginia, another 100 million at least they want to spend to kind of restructure FedEx Field because it collapses and it's a bad stadium.
Yeah,
it's a bad stadium. They want to spend another 88 million on fan and team experience. They've been getting better, I think. Bringing in Wright when you got Ron as head coach, they've gotten better. But considering what you've got from other teams, like all these VIP experiences, all these events with the teams, and we're just like, cool, have a hat. They need to do better, so I think that's what they want to spend money on. And then just probably returning to RFK is what, like you're saying, the plan was, but that's not for another decade. 2031 is as close as it seems. It's 2023. That's another 7 years. They were saying 2027 aggressively if they were, the dream scenario is a 4-year turnaround. But 7 years I think sounds about right for what they want. What's going to happen and how long this will eventually take to get a new stadium, per se. I'm going to rattle off some of this other news. Announced today, which is Thursday night. You guys see this on Friday. August 15th and 16th, the Commanders and Ravens are doing a joint practice. Finally, once again, just before preseason, up at the Ravens Under Armour Athletic Performance Center to do joint practice. We needed some live rounds because considering the last 2 years of just being commander on commander violence, it hasn't done us any good. So getting some other, guys getting some practice. You got Forbes and BSJ going up against an OBJ, a Zay Flowers, a Rashad Bateman. You've got a Chase Young going up against, their O-line. You've got our defense finally getting some live rounds against guys who are NFL players, not just guys you share a locker room with. I think it's good for a team. I think it's good for the team.
Definitely.
Yeah. Justin, what you think?
No, I agree 100% with what you were saying. Sorry, my internet's been cutting in and out.
Very good. But yeah, I think it'll just help team morale overall because you see the same guys kind of over and over again. But if you're a Chase Young or Montez Sweat, you want to say, this is my contract year. Let me go out and get, let's say, 3 sacks in camp. Let me go out and destroy this these O-line guys. I think it'll be good. And the last bit of news I'll just touch up on. We had 30 over the past 2 weeks and even into this week, 31 rookie invitees, including one signing. XFL Battlehawk Jair Jones-Smith, a tackle. We signed him just to the roster, the 90-man roster. But we've had 4 QBs, Appalachian State, JMU, Missouri State, Bowie State, 3 running backs, Air Force State, Southern Illinois, and the XFL Guardians. Another plethora of receivers, Hampton, Southern Illinois, Stony Brook, JMU, Utah State. 3 tight ends, a center, guard, a few tackles. 4 linebackers, including Diego Fago out of Navy, who came out last year, who was with Baltimore, then he got released. And Lakeem Williams from the XFL, the St. Louis Battlehawks. We had 2 safeties, 3 corners, a punter, and a kicker, who is the kicker being Ethan Mooney from North Texas. We'll have him competition with Joey. And then a name on this list who I was questionable. I saw him as a quarterback. And they haven't listed him as a cornerback. Jalen Adams out of Norfolk State. To me, he's a QB from all stats and like that. So I'm not sure if it's a typo on their part or that they're going to transition him to corner, which wouldn't seem likely. Quarterback to corner would be a complete spectrum change. But 31 invitees. Out of the undrafted free agents and the invitees, what called 3 names kind of jump off the list and out of training camp saying he'll make a roster?
Yeah, well, the 3 guys I've scouted and wrote about so far. First, Kaz Allen out of UCLA, undersized, 5'8", 176, former high school running back, tweener guy, receiver, running back. So he's kind of a gadget guy for UCLA. Not tremendously used in their offense, 762 yards in 36 games, only 7 touchdowns. Kick return, those where he earns his bones. Guy 27 yards average during his career. I do think he can play punt return as well. I think people are too easily to say if you can play kick return, you can play punt return, but that's not the case. But with him, I definitely see it because there has to be a lot more shiftiness with the punt returners because it's not just catching the ball and returning it. It's being able to catch it in traffic and maneuver quickly. And I think he's a guy, they're going to be enamored with him. You talk about EB, what a lot of the guys that he liked to utilize in Kansas City. This is a guy, honestly, you're talking about Samuel, coming up on the last year of his deal, I believe.
Yeah.
As Allen, I definitely could see a guy that can play that gadget role, considering he played running back as well, also for UCLA. So I really like him. Another guy I think, might be, a little bit of a long shot because he doesn't offer much in special teams is Penn State's Mitchell Tinsley, 6 foot, just under 200. I really like him. You're talking about, they're battling Dax Milne because that ran it now. Then he also brought a receiver in from Kansas City. So those last 2 spots, I think, up for grabs. I think Kaz Allen gets one on Tinsley. Yeah. I think if he has a really good camp, he could be in consideration. But, really good guy to have on your practice squad. But the last guy, Fordham's Tim Morant, quarterback, I was really hoping they were going to get a guy like Dorian Thompson Robinson. But I understand they were looking more at the undrafted range. And this guy, they're being compared to Tony Romo, 6'4", big guy, 6'4", 224. He didn't have a ton of scrambling yards, but that's because he really just maneuvers and gets out of the pocket to, open up downfield. Tight windows, a little bit of concern. I think I can see a lot of it cleaned up, but, live arm. What I like about him is the quick twitch about him. And that's something that EB is going to do. There's going to be a lot of tempo. I expect to see a lot of quick game, even sprinkled in RPOs. And that's exactly what he did at Fordham. So I understand it exactly because what their offense did, even though they did a lot of spread scheme, I think he's going to fit really good in this West Coast system. I don't think it'll be a huge transition. Again, will they keep 3 quarterbacks they did last year? If not, he's their practice squad #1 quarterback because, I haven't watched the other guys yet. I'll be getting into all their film and putting out reports on them. But I think he's the guy that probably makes it as their 3rd quarterback.
That's a great list. You guys remember Trenton Holiday at all from the Broncos?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That's who I compared Allen to. I mean, Trenton Holiday was like 5'5", But just watching him return, play kick return, that's who he just reminds me of. Just this very fast, short guy. He's very electric.
Yeah, I agree. I was thinking where you're going with this because I'm thinking Trent Holiday gets shellacked by Pat McAfee on the sideline. I'm like, no, he was electric that those few years of Broncos. No, I agree. I think Kaz Allen, Tinsley, Fordham, all were great all great names. I think another one who might be sprinkled in there towards the bottom is Bryson Tremaine out of Stanford, the receiver. From what I've seen, a little bit of film study myself, and then kind of what I've been hearing is he probably won't make the roster, the 53 or the 90, but he'll make a practice squad. From what I remember, he's a little bit of a bigger, taller guy, a little bit lengthier, so they could transition him to tight end because even though we have 4 on the roster, so we'll see if we keep 4. I would release Thomas if it were me. Older age, injuries, money, all that. But I agree, Allen, Tinsley, and Fordham. I would keep 3 quarterbacks on the roster just because Jacoby will be your backup, Sam as your starter, and then if push comes to shove and 2 injuries happen for whatever godly reason, you've got someone who you've seen, who you've evaluated, who you can say, we can adjust for this, the rest of this game or for next game. Let's see what he's got. And if, he does great, all right, now you got a real competition next year for Sam and him. If it's serviceable, you know what you've got. Kind of similar to what we did with Heineke. We called him up. Hey, what can he do for us? We saw what he got out of him. We know what he's going to do. But that will wrap things up. Adam, we can't thank you enough for staying, these past 2 hours with us. I didn't think it'd go on this long, but it did. So I can't thank you enough.
It's been a pleasure. Check me out, the Burgundy and Gold Report.com. And like I said, we'll be doing our weekly show with Tim McRae and George Carmi, just talking about all things Commanders in the NFL. So check us out, the Burgundy and Gold Report.com.
Absolutely. Guys, go check it out. Put all the links down in the description. Obviously, I'm going to put the his logo up there, throughout the whole episode. So you guys be like, man, where's he from again? It's going to be right there on screen for you guys. And head over to Instagram, go like and subscribe to this video over on the Burgundy and Gold Report. Go like and subscribe to them. Over on Instagram, follow. Over on TikTok, follow, us, Adam, Doug, the Burgundy Gold Report over there. Anything else you guys want to add before we get out of here?
No, that's about it. We appreciate Adam for joining the show, and just stay balling, guys.
Yeah.
Did it.
All right, guys. We'll see y'all out there.